This week, I give you guys an update on the craziness that has been in my life lately, including health issues with Jess and PorcFest 2019. What's in the news with stories on Air Force is in debt, Julian Assange sentenced in the UK, legal kidnapping, Boy Scouts abuse, banning Styrofoam, and Big Brother. Also, an Ancap Apps segment on Health Excellence Plus, a free market-style health share that saved me thousands of dollars. Speaking of Health Excellence Plus, this episode is brought to you by Health Excellence Plus, a health share that has saved my family thousands of dollars and can save you money too. Also brought to you by ForkFest, the third annual decentralized Libertarian camping event that happens right before PorcFest, with no tickets and no one in charge.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. From the state that the governor vetoed a veto-proof supermajority legislative vote ending the death penalty, this is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Rebellion needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at TheLavaFlowPod. This is episode 130, Cancer Sucks, PorcFest Rocks, and it's Wednesday, May 8th, 2019, when there have already been more than 310 people killed by police this year, and the United States debt clock shows us at more than $22,268,300 million in debt. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. This episode is probably going to be a bit shorter this week as life has been really crazy intense and busy for the Paxton family lately. I figured I would take a few minutes in this segment and just give you guys an update on me and mine. As you've heard me mention on the show a couple of times, Jess, my wife, had a couple of surgeries last week. Back in the first week of February, she had a little spot come up on her lower left eyelid. We assumed at the time that it was just a skin tag because, well, that's what it looked like. But this spot grew, and it grew quickly. Within just a few weeks, it was the size of a pencil eraser. So, of course, we were concerned. She went to a dermatologist who told her he couldn't take it off because it was too close to her eyeball, so he told her to go to an eye specialist. So after waiting 2 weeks for that first appointment, we were back to square one, all while this thing was growing at a huge rate. So finally, we get an appointment with an eye specialist who gives us 3 options for what it could be, one of which was cancer. More specifically, squamous cell carcinoma, which is the second most common form of skin cancer. A few days later, they took some of it off and did a biopsy, which did indeed come back as a squamous cell. This turned what we initially thought was nothing into a pretty big deal. I mean, cancer's no joke, even for something like this, and even as young as my wife is. Thankfully, though, the chance of this metastasizing is very low, but we were, of course, still concerned. This led her to 2 surgeries. The first one was called a Mohs procedure, which is where they take a slice of her face where the cancer was, then biopsy the edges of that slice to make sure that they got all the cancer out, and then take more slices if needed. This could have been as simple as a single slice, or hell, they could have taken half of her cheek off. And of course, not knowing what was coming was the worst part. With everything going on in our lives with PorcFest, our little homestead, and life itself, this meant that we may have had to put everything on hold. Because if they had to take a lot of her skin, then they would have had to sew her eye closed for months to let everything heal properly. Thankfully, the doctor only had to take a single slice of her eyelid. That was absolutely the best case scenario that we could have hoped for, and this meant that all of the cancer was removed. Fuck cancer in the neck. It was a quick and easy day for day 1, thankfully. The next day was the cosmetic surgery to repair the damage done from the removal. The cosmetic surgery was a much bigger deal, though, done in a hospital operating room with anesthesia and the whole 9 yards. The best we could have hoped for here was just a couple of stitches to repair the cut, but they ended up having to slice a little bit of the corner of Jess's eye to free up some skin to repair the cut. While this was not absolutely best-case scenario, it was pretty goddamn close. This meant Jess did not have to have her eyelids sewn shut for weeks or months. Talk about a fucking relief. Once this was done, it was like a huge weight had been lifted off of our shoulders. I know that's very cliche, but that's really what it felt like. The not knowing was excruciating, and now we know. and we are on the backside of her surgeries, and all is well. We couldn't be happier with the outcome. Guys, I want to thank all of you for your well wishes. I had you guys send me messages, emails, texts, and everything in between, and I can't tell you how much it meant to Jess and I. From the bottom of my heart, you guys truly do rock. Since I mentioned PorcFest, though, I want to give you guys a quick update on that too, since I haven't mentioned it much this year. Yes, Jess and I are still co-producing the event this year for the second time in a row. And this year we have a bunch of great speakers lined up. Maj Touré from Black Guns Matter will be speaking, which I'm super excited about. Also, comedian and host of Part of the Problem podcast, Dave Smith, will be speaking and doing a comedy act as well. You don't want to miss that. And Scott Horton will also be speaking on the main stage. I can't wait to see that one either. And of course, PorcFest wouldn't be PorcFest without Lynn Ulbricht speaking. She'll be giving an update on her son Ross Ulbricht. There will also be a huge auction event to help raise money for Ross's legal fees. We raised nearly $7,000 at Liberty Forum for Ross, but we hope to blow that out of the water this year at PorcFest. Other notable speakers include Jeffrey Tucker, Vermin Supreme, who's going to be doing a cabaret experience variety show, and Vin Armani, and many others. It's going to be another hell of a PorcFest that you do not want to miss, so make sure you go to PorcFest.com and get your tickets now. If you use coupon code LAVA, you can get 10% off of your general admission or VIP tickets. I hope to see as many of you as possible there this year. If you're a listener of the show, please make sure you find me at PorcFest and let me meet you and take a picture with you for my collection. I love meeting you guys anywhere that I can.
Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In debt news, the U.S. Air Force is facing money problems, which have resulted in a shortfall of more than $4 billion in fiscal year 2019 so far. If the Air Force doesn't get additional funds, it will be forced to ground combat aircraft, defer at least 61 facility repair projects at various bases, and halt certain aircraft maintenance actions. Key weapons programs like hypersonic weapons development would be slowed down and become more costly, and non-deploying squadrons may have their flying hours stripped away, warned Air Force Secretary Heather Wilson in a March 6 memo obtained by Defense News. Wilson wrote, "We need sufficient reprogramming for the Air Force to avoid significant negative impacts on the readiness of the force to fight. These fiscal year 2019 budget impacts left unmitigated will drive negative impacts to the Air Force readiness and lethality. I personally don't see this as a negative impact. The less bombs dropped on brown people, the better." The money the service needs in fiscal year 19 falls into 3 categories. It needs $1.2 billion in additional funding for hurricane and flood recovery at Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida, and Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska, according to service. It needs to transfer $366 million from other accounts so that it can achieve the 80% mission-capable mandate for the F-35, F-22, and F-16. It needs permission to shift more than $3 billion in its existing budget so that it can continue funding the development of tech priorities like hypersonics and new missile warning satellites, according to the memo. During an April 30th roundtable with reporters, John Henderson, Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Installations, Environment, and Energy, said that the lack of funding will keep the service from starting a total of 121 projects at Tyndall Air Force Base. He said these are repair projects for facilities. It's doing initial repairs on roofs, doing mold remediation, completing the demolition on buildings that are partially demolished and have standing water. We have 29,000 acres of trees. 75% of those trees were knocked over, and they're drying up and becoming a fire risk. Until those projects receive funding, these facilities will essentially just continue to decay. It will leave facilities that are partially destroyed in that state. So in other words, when the wind comes up, we'll have debris blowing off those buildings until we get them demolished. Decaying U.S. Air Force bases? Could there be anything better for the peace of the world than decaying U.S. Air Force bases? I say let them all decay into the dustbin of history. In Heroes news, Julian Assange was sentenced to 50 weeks in a UK prison for skipping bail. In 2012, Assange faced allegations of sexual assault, with Sweden requesting he be extradited to that country. As a result, Assange has successfully sought refuge at the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where he stayed until Ecuadorian officials got tired of harboring him and revoked his asylum last month. British police immediately took him into custody. Judge Deborah Taylor said in court, "By entering the embassy, you deliberately put yourself out of reach while remaining in the UK. You remained there for nearly 7 years, exploiting your privileged position to flout the law and advertise internationally your disdain for the laws of this country." His stay in the Ecuadorian embassy cost British taxpayers £16 million, almost $21 million, Taylor said, as police had to continuously monitor the building until last month. They had to? Bullshit. They chose to. Swedish prosecutors have since dropped the assault charges against Assange. But, as the New York Times notes, it's very possible they could reopen the case now that he's no longer confined to the Ecuadorian embassy. Assange's efforts to seek asylum undoubtedly affected the progress of the Swedish proceedings regarding the sexual assault allegations. Meanwhile, United Nations experts have called for Assange to be released from prison and criticized the British government for breaching his human rights. The UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, WGAD, said it was deeply concerned by the disproportionate sentence imposed on Assange for violating the terms of his bail, which it described as a minor offense. WGID has twice previously called for Assange to be freed, after it judged his confinement to the Ecuadorian embassy by the threat of arrest should he leave amounted to arbitrary detention. Julian Assange should be receiving medals, not detention. He put his life and liberty on the line to ensure that people like you and I received information on criminal acts inside government. Free Julian Assange. As most of you know, I was laid off from my 9-to-5 director of IT job last summer. Among the many terrifying things about losing your job is losing your health benefits. Our family went about 6 months without any kind of health insurance, and the anxiety and worry that came along with that was not insignificant. But after spending dozens of hours researching our options and quickly rejecting the $2,000 a month price tag that came with the options available with traditional insurance, we found Health Excellence Plus, a health share that was a fraction of the cost, and we're glad we did. Only a few weeks after joining as members of this health share program, my wife was diagnosed with a common skin cancer that requires an expensive procedure to remove the cancer and another surgery to repair the damage done from the cancer removal. When this is all said and done, Health Excellence Plus will have saved our family thousands of dollars, and I'll bet they can save you money too. Health Excellence Plus is a health share that meets the requirements of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. A health share is a community of like-minded, health-focused members who have joined together to share each other's medical costs above an amount they can comfortably afford. A health share is not traditional health insurance. It is designed to be a catastrophic coverage for major items, like my wife's surgery. The cost of an average family insurance policy for a primary 45 years old with a $5,000 deductible is $1,450 per month. A Health Excellence Plus $500 initial insurable amount with a healthcare strategy is only $783. Get started saving money today at thelavaflow.com/health. That's thelavaflow.com/health. In illegal kidnapping news, police and child services forced a family apart for 7 months after a false accusation. Adam Lowther and his wife Jessica are suing the police and child services officials for violating their rights, misleading other authorities about the merits of the case against them, and traumatizing their children after being forcibly separated from his children for half a year and spending more than $300,000 in legal bills trying to reunite his family after it was torn apart by the New Mexico Children, Youth, and Families Department on the basis of a false sexual abuse accusation. They are suing not just in hopes that they might recover some of their financial losses, but also to bring about institutional change, they said. The experience has opened up the Lowthers' eyes to the inequalities of the criminal justice system, and they don't want anyone to go through what they did. Adam Lowther told Reason magazine, "We never thought this kind of thing could ever happen. We assumed that law enforcement was competent, and we assumed that they obeyed the law. That was a wrong assumption, but that was our assumption." The article on Reason.com goes into great detail on the circumstances that this family went through, and it is fucking disgusting to read. But if you want to stay informed as to what the law will do to you on spurious accusations, I highly recommend that you take the time to read this article linked in the show notes at thelavaflow.com/130. The Lowthers wrote in their lawsuit, "Immediately after the removal and late into the night, the children were subjected to hours of forensic interviews. The forensic interviews and physical examinations were conducted without a warrant or court oversight. CYFD, who was the guardian of the children, acted with indifference to the trauma caused by the forensic interviews and examinations. Indeed, the removal decision was made in furtherance of their criminal investigation, not to keep the children safe from harm. This itself was contrary to the children's interests and violated their constitutional rights." Adam and Jessica are conservatives, but their experience with the criminal justice system significantly altered their thinking. Adam said, "Prior to this, I would never have called myself a supporter of Black Lives Matter. My view of law enforcement has completely changed." And there it is, folks. As long as law enforcement continues down this path of ruling over us the way they are, hiding their corrupt nature, and going after folks for bullshit like this, people will continue to make this shift from being bootlicking copsuckers and apologists to people who question their authority. The police in our country are not given a bad rap for no reason. They deserve it. And more people are seeing it every single day, just like the Lowthers. As long as people start to remove the shackles from their minds in this regard, the more people the police will have to shackle their wrists to keep them, quote, in line. And then this will lead to more people unshackling their minds. It is a circle that is only going to work in our favor. In abuse news, an expert who has been working with the Boy Scouts revealed that there may have been as many as 7,819 allegedly sexual abusive troop leaders and volunteers in the storied organization who allegedly abused 12,254 victims, according to newly released court documents. These figures were released Tuesday by attorney Jeff Anderson, whose firm regularly represents victims of sexual abuse and has been involved in numerous clerical sexual abuse cases. The new testimony was entered into the court record as part of a January trial about child sex abuse at a Minnesota children's theater company. One of the expert witnesses who testified was Dr. Janet Warren, who is a professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Neurobehavioral Sciences at the University of Virginia's Medical School. Warren testified that she has been on private contract with the Boy Scouts of America for the past 5 years, evaluating its handling of abuse cases within the organization from 1944 through 2016. Warren testified that she and her team worked with the group's ineligible volunteer files, which have sometimes been referred to as the perversion files. Anderson publicly released those numbers at a news conference on Tuesday, saying that 130 of those perpetrators are in New York and could face legal repercussions. Earlier this year, state lawmakers passed the Child Victims Act, which allows claims of sexual abuse from any time period to be brought forth in spite of existing statutes of limitations for one-year periods starting last August. The existence of the abuse database is not new, but the scope of the abuse is. In 2012, more than 14,000 pages of documents relating to abuse by 1,247 Scout leaders was released in connection to a case in Oregon. That same year, the LA Times created a database detailing about 5,000 men and a small number of women tied to the Boy Scouts who were expelled in connection to sexual abuse. Warren's number shows a significant jump in that number, and Anderson is calling for the Boy Scouts of America to make the list public. The Boy Scouts said every instance of suspected abuse is reported to law enforcement. Now guys, this is a pretty serious case, and it does look like the Boy Scouts have taken it pretty seriously. However, I also think that making the list public would be valuable to investigative journalists who may want to dig deeper into this. Of course, not all of the 7,800 people on this list are guilty, but public scrutiny would help everyone out, especially those who are not guilty. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians this summer from June 13th through June 18th for ForkFest 2019 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens right before the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means that no one is in charge. This also means that there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping or RV site or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 18th. You can simply relax and go camping with other liberty lovers, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with other ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to both of those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. That's forkfest.party. This is the third year of this event, and I have attended all of them so far, so I hope to see you there this year. Get all of the information at forkfest.party. In Ban All the Things news, Maine has become the first state to ban Styrofoam food containers. Under a new bill signed into law by Governor Janet Mills, businesses and organizations will not be allowed to process, prepare, sell, or provide food or beverages to customers with these single-use Styrofoam containers, starting on January 1st, 2021. Anyone who violates this law could face a fine of up to $100 per incident. Governor Mills' decision comes after a months-long debate into the use of Styrofoam food containers in Maine. The bill, originally proposed by Representative Stanley Ziegler, Democrat from Montville, is designed to limit plastic pollution in the state. More than 150 municipalities or regions have already banned disposable foam food containers, including 14 towns in Maine, according to the Natural Resources Council of Maine. What the hell are they going to come after next? I mean, first it was shopping bags, then it was straws, now Styrofoam containers. Will it be drinking cups next? Doggy bags? I mean, this shit is insane, and it's only going to continue to raise prices of things for everyone. Go figure. In Big Brother news, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, and the ACLU today asked a federal court to rule without trial that the Department of Homeland Security violates the First and Fourth Amendments by searching travelers' smartphones and laptops at airports and other U.S. ports of entry without a warrant. Now, guys, I'm a huge supporter of the Electronic Frontier Foundation. I donate to them for this exact reason. They are not afraid to call out the government all the time for these sorts of abuses. The request for summary judgment comes after the groups obtained documents and deposition testimony revealing that U.S. Customs and Border Protection and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement authorize border officials to search travelers' phones and laptops for general law enforcement purposes and consider requests from other government agencies when deciding whether to conduct such warrantless searches. EFF Senior Staff Attorney Adam Schwartz said, "The evidence we have presented the court shows that the scope of ICE and CBP border searches is unconstitutionally broad. ICE and CBP policies and practices allow unfettered, warrantless searches of travelers' digital devices and empower officers to dodge the Fourth Amendment when rifling through highly personal information contained on laptops and phones." Esha Bandari, staff attorney with the ACLU's Speech, Privacy, and Technology Project, said, "This new evidence reveals that government agencies are using the pretext of the border to make an end run around the First and Fourth Amendments. The border is not a lawless place. ICE and CBP are not exempt from the Constitution, and the information on our electronic devices is not devoid of Fourth Amendment protections. We're asking the court to stop these unlawful searches and require the government to get a warrant." The government documents and testimony, portions of which were publicly filed in court, reveal CBP and ICE are asserting broad and unconstitutional authority to search and seize travelers' devices. The evidence includes ICE and CBP policies and practices that authorize border officers to conduct warrantless and suspicionless device searches for purposes beyond the enforcement of immigration and customs laws. Officials can search devices for general law enforcement purposes, such as enforcing bankruptcy, environmental, and customer protection laws, and for intelligence gathering or to advance pre-existing investigations. Officers also consider requests from other governmental agencies to search devices. In addition, the agencies assert the authority to search electronic devices when the subject of interest is someone other than the traveler, such as when the traveler is a journalist or scholar with foreign sources who are of interest to the U.S. government, or even when the traveler is the business partner of someone under investigation. Both agencies further allow officers to retain information from travelers' electronic devices and share it with other governmental entities, including state, local, and foreign law enforcement agencies. The number of electronic device searches at the border has increased dramatically in the last few years. Last year, CBP conducted more than 33,000 border device searches, almost 4 times the number from just 3 years ago. CBP and ICE policies allow border officers to manually search anyone's smartphone with no suspicion at all, and to conduct a forensic search with reasonable suspicion of wrongdoing. CBP also allows suspicionless device searches for a national security concern, of course. The plaintiffs are asking the court to rule that the government must have a warrant based on probable cause before conducting searches of electronic devices, which contain highly detailed personal information about people's lives. The plaintiffs, which include a limousine driver, a military veteran, journalists, students, an artist, a NASA engineer, and a business owner, are also requesting the court to hold that the government must have probable cause to confiscate a traveler's device. Probable cause? Do you mean like the Constitution says? Do you mean that scrap of paper that didn't even have dry ink yet before it was shat upon? Look, if anyone thinks that some piece of paper is going to protect your rights, I have some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. Unfit to exist.
Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
Ancap Apps.
You guys have heard me talk about Health Excellence Plus on this show for a couple of weeks now as an advertiser, but I wanted to get a bit more personal with this now that our cancer issues are in the past, like I talked about in the first segment. You guys know that I lost my job last June and have been working non-traditional jobs ever since, and loving it, by the way. But with that job loss meant the loss of traditional employer health care. That was pretty scary, especially with a couple of young kids. We began looking around for something that would work for us, but not be too expensive. Let me tell you, that was tough. I mean, we looked into all sorts of traditional insurance, and everything was priced way outside of our budget. For shits and giggles, we even priced insurance on the Obamacare exchange to see what they were offering. Also way outside of our budget. Not that I would have purchased insurance on the exchange anyway. So we began looking at health shares. Now, I've heard about these for a while and have even talked about health shares on this show before, but all of them that I knew of required a statement of faith. You know, my wife and I are atheists, and since signing a statement of faith to receive a product is a contract in my mind, I was not going to lie on a contract to receive a service, so we pretty much gave up on that route. Until we heard of Health Excellence Plus. They don't require any statement of faith to join. Plus, health shares are exempt from the requirements of the ACA mandate to purchase health insurance, so no penalties. Now, just to be clear, medical cost sharing is not a cheap insurance program or a healthcare alternative. It is something completely different. Boiled down, medical cost sharing or health shares are a group of like-minded individuals that agree to come together and help each other pay their medical expenses. They offer programs for planning for unforeseen medical experiences. Now, these are not for everybody, but they are definitely worth exploring. Since it's not traditional health insurance, they don't have to play by the same rules. For instance, since there are no network requirements, you can go to whatever doctor you want to. There are no networks, so you don't have to worry about in-network versus out-of-network and all of that crap. It's simple, and you really do get to keep your doctor, and you are in control. How does it work, though? Well, everybody pays in a certain monthly share amount, and for your own expenses, you are responsible for covering an annual personal responsibility, or unshared amount, almost like a deductible. Then, after that unshared amount, the rest of your medical expenses are shared among the group from what they've paid in many cases up to $1 million per incident. For example, the unshared amount that we chose that fit our budget is $2,500 per incident, which fit with our monthly budget and our savings very well. We can comfortably cover the $2,500 if needed, and it lowered our total cost per month. You can go as low as $500 unshared if you like, but your monthly costs will be higher. And we have a personal HSA account through our health share where we can hold that $2,500 in tax-free money to cover that unshared amount. And after a certain number of incidents or needs, the unshareable amount goes away completely. I challenge you to find a traditional insurance plan that will make your deductible disappear after a while. So for our recent medical issues with Jessica's cancer, we will pay the $2,500, but the health share will pick up the rest of those costs in their entirety, which is saving us thousands and thousands of dollars. One of the differences in health share versus traditional insurance is that you are more in control of your medical costs. Since you're essentially paying cash for a procedure and saving the doctors tons of money for billing insurance and the like, you can find significant savings from doctors as a cash pay patient. Another thing to consider is that since you are in control, you will have to do some of the groundwork. Jess did have to spend a lot of time on the phone with doctors' offices working out pricing and such, and having to explain to them what a health share is and how they work, because many doctors in our area are still unfamiliar with them. This would not be an issue in more populated areas, I imagine, but in our small part of a small state, it was an issue that we had to overcome. Health Excellence Plus is much closer to a free market approach to healthcare, much closer than just about anything else you'll find in the United States today. The company is owned and run by Liberty Lovers and endorsed by Dr. Mary Ruhart. Now, you guys know I am very particular about who I allow to advertise on this show. If it's a product I don't either use or endorse, it's not going to show up on the show as an advertiser, period. And there have been several people who wanted to advertise on the show that I would not allow to. But with Health Excellence Plus, I endorse this product because I use this product, and I think it can work for you and save you a bunch of money like it has for us. If you work for yourself, or work as a contractor, or do not have employer-owned health insurance, Health Excellence Plus may be for you. If you do have employer-owned health insurance and the costs are way too much for you, Health Excellence Plus may be for you. If you want more control of your health care and the costs, or if you just want to be able to select your own doctors and health care, Health Excellence Plus may be for you. With this health share, you get concierge customer services, an HSA account, unlimited access to tele and video doc services 24/7, discount prices on prescriptions, wellness programs, a live wellness coordinator, annual physicals, mammograms, colonoscopies, and the like at a $0 copay, and so much more. It is healthcare evolved and built on a free market model that works. It worked for Jess and I and saved us thousands of dollars on just one incident. It may also work for you. If you want more information on Health Excellence Plus, please go to thelavaflow.com/health and check it out. Now, if you sign up using that link, it is an affiliate link, I will get a bit of a kickback on that. So it would be really helping me and the show out if you did use this link. Again, that's thelavaflow.com/health. Stop giving money to the healthcare cartel and give money to yourself by using a health share that works for you, not for the government or the insurance companies. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my favorite cancer survivor, Jessica, for her help with the show. For the show notes of this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on the show, go to thelavaflow.com/130. I don't have any new supporters this week, but thanks to all of my awesome supporters, I'm at $267.57 per episode, or 53.51% of the way towards my next goal of $500 per episode. Thank you guys for all of your support. Remember, when I hit this next goal, I'm going to be upping the content I bring you from half an hour per week to a full hour. I know you want more content from me, and I want to give it to you. So add your pledge today to help me bring you twice the lava flow that you're getting today. So exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon, or monthly through Subscribestar, or using cryptocurrencies through Bitbacker. I want to be able to bring you more content soon, so make sure to add your donation today to help make that happen. I have one new Apple Podcast review this week. Garrett X says, one of my favorite podcasts. This is a great show. The layout is amazing. Makes for a very fresh and fun listening experience. Very informative, very funny. Thank you so much, Garrett. Very much appreciated. You rock, man. And if you have a minute and you want to hear your review read right here on the show, please go to thelavaflow.com/Apple and leave me a rating and a review. All the cool kids like Garrett are doing it. Thank you to everyone who's left me a rating and a review so far. You guys rock. To all of you who haven't, can you guys help me out and go leave a review for me? Go to thelavaflow.com/Apple to do that now. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.